Hi everyone, I'm super happy to be here, always at James events. They're great. I was thinking about this my session and I thought, what skills do we need as app marketers? This is actually the continuation of presentation I gave before, one on specifically on skills around ASO that I gave at the ASO conference last week, which is online. And pretty much the continuation of a talk I gave at Applause last year. That's called What's Next in UA. That was also about the role. And before we look into the future, I want to give a little push into the past and look at how the early days of app marketing were looking. So for those who've been like more than 7 or 8 years in that industry, you remember those times that we just ran on CPI and didn't have a lot more to bother about, which may sound dumb now, but was working because of the volume and the profitability was there. So we just didn't have to care too much. And then come this time where a lot of it was done manually. Like we would have to cross the data from the network and from MMP and sometimes internal, which personally bring me to the very limits of Excel, like in this particular example. Actually, this example is fake because it says like the maximum rows in Excel is 65K. It's actually a million line. You can get a million line in Excel, but no more. Up to the point you realize we needed better systems in place. Tools have evolved quite a lot around complex data stack made of a lot of independent different provider, your MMP, cost aggregation, maybe a CDP like segment or particle in the middle, and you want to join all of this. And as app marketer, we want to just use that data to make informed decision. So whether you're using like an FMP, a data aggregator, or those complex BI tools, very often a data warehouse with Looker or Tableau on top, maybe Periscope or another one. Which, by the way, lately I'm seeing people re-simplify this whole thing very often with Data Studio. Not a big fan. I think Looker is a lot more powerful, but basically we need to know how to use these tools, like forget Excel. And I mean, it's much better than Excel, not only because you save a lot of time, but also because you can like move this data in many ways that we couldn't before. So that would maybe look like this. This is like, for example, an overview of Singular. You've got fancy graph, maybe something more like this, because it's not only fancy graph, but like numbers, and you can filter and so on. And so the first, like sort of the first skill is you need to be agile with some of these BI tools, at least the data visualization part, not necessarily be an expert at engineering the data that comes in, but at least to use them. And so I sometimes still see proficiency at Excel in job offers for UA. I'm like, why do you even want people to use Excel for anyway? I mean, isn't your goal for people to not use Excel and be entirely in your database? So I'm surprised how little we see like proficiency in Tableau or Looker or Data Studio or whatever it is. But yeah, definitely be good at that. Even sometimes you want to make your own query. A friend of mine yesterday was denied a job in UA because he's not good enough at SQL queries, which he's learning. I thought, yeah, want to think about. So first skill, forget Excel, be good at BI tools. Second, it's not really a skill, but I'd get there. Looking at the evolution of how Facebook changed. I mean, Facebook is the dominant channel in apps, so I took this one as an example. So back in the early days, it was mostly interested categories, bidding on CPI, easy world, not great for targeting. And I think one of the reasons Facebook placed itself as the winner as app marketing channel is mostly due to lookalikes. They just did it better than everyone. Then later, some tried to copy the feature. I mean, now Snap has it, Twitter has it, Google tried, and then they dropped it now. But basically, Facebook did these lookalikes better than anyone, and it's been working great for us for years, up to the point that our reps started to say, go back to Broad, like just target everybody, which is what happened with this new automated ads, where Facebook is basically going UAC. And what this change has meant, and I mean, over the last 2 years, we moved completely to event organization instead of having event optimization, instead of having all these lines of ad sets. And now we're bringing to an even closer structure. And what that means is that this kind of behavior that I was pretty much that kind of guy, like super segmented, I have a strong naming convention everywhere, I'm fighting for every bit of return. I love this picture. Maybe you don't have the time to see it entirely because I'll skip, but I'll repost it. And yeah, this was UA 3 or 4 years ago. And in my opinion, to a sad place, this has been UA in, last year and this year, with basically people just applying the reps advice. Yeah, let's go, no naming, just one ad group, everybody together, let the machine do the work. Because for many at scale, event optimization or value optimization just did the job. But it's not, I mean, you can't rely on staying like this forever. And the point of this talk is that we want to get smarter than the chat. Don't be the chat. One of the change with this that came is that as Google and Facebook removed us some levers of bidding and targeting and options and segmenting and so on, the creative become more and more important. In the talk about what next in UA that I mentioned earlier, I really try to insist in this, in that creative is where you make the difference in lowering acquisition price, is where you make the difference in improving some rates after conversion or retention. And they're actually the new target. You don't necessarily need a lookalike. If the creative is specific enough, the machine will kind of learn that this kind of user are reacting to it. So I think it's worth investing a lot of time in understanding better the context of the ads, the audience you're trying to reach, and have your creative like attacking different segments by their own design. And yeah, so I say creative is king. Skill number 2, be a creative manager, which brings us to something that has been true the whole time, which is, oh, sorry about that. Marketing is the combination of some art and some science. You need to be a good storyteller, and you need to be good at understanding numbers. Personally, better at understanding numbers, but it's been a long time. I understand we need a bit of both to be a decent marketer. I mentioned the evolution like of tools and of targeting options. If we look at the metrics we optimize for, basically we're going more sophisticated. From CPA to CPI to, sorry, from CPI to CPA, measuring on actions, and then on value. I put here return, basically when you optimize for value. And then I put PRO as like, and I wrote last year in prediction for this year that we're moving down the funnel, and better than return on ad spend is predicted return on ad spend, because we marketers want this data very early on to make decision. And this evolution of KPI has been represented in how the different networks are offering us options. In the case of Google, well, they propose the install. They're still trying to push us to do those campaigns. I have no idea why. And obviously the in-app actions. The value is still something that is in beta, so the smaller advertiser wouldn't access it, but that's something you might want to try if it makes sense for you. And we might think, okay, I have complex predictive return on ad spend. Maybe that's the end of the road, and it's not. So the skill number 3 is you need to go deeper in your funnel. Like the action can move down in predictive for the very long term. You want to know in a day or in a week what's going to happen in months. But we can think even deeper than that, because after those, I mean, it doesn't go much deeper than predictive ROAS, but one of the metrics that we're optimized for, we started looking at, I have one case where an app I work with is optimizing for return on LTV, but this LTV takes time to come back. And actually this the financing, it has got a price. So smart people started looking more at the payback period. Okay, it's good that I'm making 2 or 3 to 1 return, but how much time is it taking? Like personally, I'd rather make 2 to 1 return today than 3 to 1 return in a year, like just because of the cost of financing that. So, and here you need to balance a little bit like this LTV to CAC ratio to the payback period, which is another way of looking at it. And maybe you would attract a little bit of different user, probably design your payroll slightly differently and so on. And then you realize, usually as you grow early on, it's easier than that. There's a lot of cross-device activity, especially if you don't only operate in the app, but also have a website, and that becomes very complicated. Anyway, I'm not gonna detail too much on that because I want to go to the next one, incrementality, which I think is really what has been the big topic this year, hottest topic, and in my opinion, an even better measurement of paid acquisition than payback period or return. You can have apparent return that are not actually true. I think it's a fundamental. It's been a fundamental, like measuring incrementality always been fundamental in remarketing, because you can do it. You can isolate a cohort and see how it behaves. But in user acquisition, it's been a bit of a unicorn. It's really hard to do. At some point, Facebook offered the tool to do that. They just admitted that tool was completely broken and the data was not correct. And I've seen a few of the smartest people in the space really try to dedicate their time on that. And suddenly, with Apple new announcement, it's becoming everybody's problem. Like, and this media mix model are what try to predict incrementality, and yeah, everybody's looking at that. It's a very hot area. There's Mao from Incremental just raised a bunch of money for making that and offering us a tool to do that. It's very hard to do internally. Been trying with one of the project I work with for over a year. We've got good result, but it is something that is complicated. Paul Bowen from AlgoLift was acquired by Bungo, very hot space this year. What are we talking about here when we're saying incrementality? It's basically, are these dollars you're thinking you're making actually true? Isn't this cannibalization that you would have gotten anyway? I took this funny picture from Incremental, but I'm not gonna spend too much time on it. I just put this old example of Uber that is pretty clear. That was 2015, I believe. And at some point, somebody at Uber decided to pull back 150 million in ad spend, which is where there is this vertical line. And what they observed is basically everything they lost on paid signups came back as organic signup, and the line of overall signup almost didn't move. So this is a typical case where you think your ad spend is well spent, but actually it's a complete waste of money. So you totally want to avoid this situation. It's not made easy because of the current measurement situation we have, also because of the way the platform are designing their own machines, not for us to be able to see that. In the case of UAC, for example, they recommend never to cut it, because then the machine would have to learn again. And of course, yeah, you don't want to repay 10, 20, 30 grand just to reteach the machine something it needs to know. But then if you never pause, you never really know what's the incrementality. And I've got here a case study from Nadir, who, when he stopped his Google ads, like, oh, suddenly all his organic exploded. Yeah. So maybe you can do locally in a geography. Maybe you can do in a period that's less important. If you're not in e-commerce, maybe you could stop for Black Friday because the inventory is very expensive, or stuff like that. But definitely try to measure incrementality, whether it's this external tools or just posing. Like on some networks, it's easier to pose and measure, especially on Apple search ads. I recommend to do that regularly, particularly because search is at the very end of the line in the last click model. You want to try that anyway. So skill number 4, understand the relationship between paid and organic. Like, don't only measure return on ad spend, but look at the blended value. Am I actually bringing something that is valuable to the company, or am I bringing something that just make my KPI look good and my bonus common? I would summarize this one as thinking broader than. So we try to think deeper in the funnel, and now we want to see broader. Like, it's not about your channel, it's not about only paid UA, it's about the overall result for the company. And yeah. So the skill number 4 is look at the big picture. Don't look at your own department. When I prepared those slides, I thought I'm going to try not to mention iOS 14, and then I couldn't not do it. So yeah, a bit of the elephant in the room here. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but it will bring me to one point. I wrote this, like, for many, I put this name because I had this article published recently about some people, that's fine, nothing has changed. Actually, a lot of things will change. And here the point I want to make is a lot of people were surprised. Oh, well, Apple from a day to the other, they're removing this, the IDFA. You can't do that. We need more time. Actually, they gave developers 3 more months to adapt. And now there's a rumor that it's actually only going to be in March, like they're going to give even more time. And if you look back, I mean, the limited tracking option was there since 2012 with iOS 6. A few years later, they actually started asking us, hey guys, what are you doing with the IDFA? Well, it's a funny story because they put this limited tracking option, but they actually didn't enforce it. So a couple of years later, I say, okay, starting now, the limited tracking people are gonna have the IDFA wiped out. Like, and you can see in this development how Apple was like slowly getting there. And then they published SKM Network 2 years ago, and nobody bothered because, well, there was no conversion value and nobody cared anyway. And it's not necessarily something we want to use if we have better options. But slowly we're getting there. Then last year, Kids App get a warning that they can't use the IDF anymore. Also took a couple of delays to get in place. But what I'm coming to say here is, if you've been surprised by Apple moving the IDFA out, is you've been missing something. I'm going to make some self promo here that I actually called it over a year ago. It was a year and a half ago. I'm saying Apple killed the IDFA. Apple is going to kill the IDFA very soon. Are you prepared? It's not that I saw it coming. It's just here. My point is, if you read through the lines and if you read decent sources, you can get informed and anticipate them. Eric Seufert on his great blog that's called Mobile Dev Memo has been calling for the IDFA change, like has been seeing the IDFA change and calling about what is going to be in the impact for your business, how you can anticipate it for like 4 years now. And every year repeat it with a better version. So here my advice is stay informed, but also be critical. Be careful where you're getting your information from. And typically, I'd say be careful about networks. They might be great lads, but they're not your friends. Like, their goal is to make money. They're sales representative. Plus, most of them, honestly, they've never run a company in their life. So it's good to take their input. But usually when I'm saying stay informed and be critical, actually, there was this question in the panel earlier this morning. I think it was asked to Jessica, like, what is the best way you keep informed and you keep up to date? And she had one of the best answers, which is having a group of peers you can refer to. And for me, the best two sources of information is that one, like your peers. So have your own network of other UA managers. There's a couple of Slacks that are very good. One that just opened, there's the Mobile Growth Stack Slack, and a few of those. The other one is there's a lot of independent information today. And I think here, like in the scale of quality of information, we've got sort of networks, very official, very bland, quite biased for them to spend with them. Then you've got vendors, which are usually a bit more unbiased and more informed, and a lot of them, they're doing a great job at trying to educate app developers. A lot of them have put great resource on the blog about iOS 14 in particular, but in general, I don't want to name names, but there's a lot of vendors that are doing a great job. I think and then on the top level, I think is independent information, and that's why I'm quoting Eric various times here. I'm going to make another auto promo. I'm also independent, and I also have a newsletter here where you can. It's not necessarily what I write, but it's more the source I pinpoint at, and I think I'm doing a good selection at showing you vendors and other people's opinion that are helping to get educated. Anyway. Last year, I was asked the same question, like, hey, what are going to be the skills of the UA marketer in 2020? I linked the article there. I'm going to skip for the sake of time, but I have a little summary here. And I basically said, and I still think it's going to be true, like the new UA manager is less of a UA manager in the sense that we do less of the intraday trading stuff, changing a bit here every 3 hours. So a lot more of a data analyst to understand what's going on, diving into this funnel, redoing this magic event for optimization. A lot more of a creative manager, and because where this is where the difference is made. A lot more broader, like on paid and organic, to understand incrementality. And I put here something that I think is really important, that is growth team member. And what I mean here is basically we should stop thinking through the small lens of paid acquisition and think a little bit broader, up to the point to own the full funnel. And this is basically starting if you only work on paid UA by looking at the organic relationship, like I said before, to move from paid acquisition to acquisition, which is still a narrow lens of what I want to call marketing, which would be like this acquisition part as well as brand marketing. And there's a lot of good content that has been published of how to work between brand marketing and performance marketing together. One of them from Adam Hadi very recently that I can link to in the chat after if you want. The other one is looking at virality and referral. We want to really understand like this how the, which is part of the paid and organic thing, but you want to start iterating on it. How can I favor it inside the app? And a big one, even though I put it in light gray here, is CRM and lifecycle. And I think to become a better marketer, you need to stop looking at how do I re-engage my user? Like what is the team sending push and emails and in-app messages doing? I think will make you a lot smarter in your own acquisition part, because you understand also a better the psychology of user, his journey, and so on. Once you reach like sort of this broader marketing role, the next step is to move to growth by moving deeper into product and having more control of the onboarding and monetization in particular, which are critical to your acquisition. This is what we measure on. In the same prediction last year, Eric said like the monetization and performance marketing are merging. And the teams, the marketing teams, the acquisition teams who don't control the monetization part, they're going to be ineffectual. You're just buying traffic with no leverage on how to optimize for it. It's just inefficient. And here you see, like I'm saying, go broader in your skills. You can't be good at every one of these things. You can't be amazing at monetization and at push notification and an expert on programmatic and also an expert on advanced audience. The idea is to bring more of a T-shape of, okay, I'm starting from that part, maybe a YSO or maybe the push. How can I build myself a T-shape? And my recommendation here would be try to apply the mobile growth stack to yourself. A lot of people see the mobile growth stack, and I put the latest edition here as, oh, I need to check all those boxes. It's not at all about that. If you read what Andy and Maurice wrote about it, it's a prioritization framework. It's one of, okay, this I'm already doing good. Maybe I'm going to focus on another one, or maybe I'm going to double down. This is not particularly relevant for my activity. Maybe you work in subscription and you're going to skip entirely direct billing or stuff like that. But really, instead of applying the stack to the companies, I think it's a great exercise to try to apply the stack to yourself. I invite to do that. I try to do it once in a year, and sometimes you uncover weaknesses, which I think is good. So the skill number 6 is be cross-functional and think bigger than acquisition. I think I'm running a little bit out of time, but I'm still going to take my chances on it. With the 7th skill, I put all these examples here. I'll show the slide, don't worry, which is a lot of subscription apps are asking, how can I go and sell on the web? Because I'm not going to pay the Apple fee, because then I don't depend on the IDFA, because then I own the customer relationship, and so on. And yeah, there's a lot of apps that are starting to understanding like maybe going cross-platform is interesting, not only for the Apple fee, for a lot of other things. The thing is, it's not as easy as it looks. People are really strong on web marketing. I often see them struggle to understand basic logic of app marketing, and vice versa. People who are really strong at app marketing, they're not really good at designing this landing page, at doing amazing checkouts. I mean, we don't have keywords in USC. A lot of things are very different. ASO and SEO are super different. I put a funny slide. I hope you like it, and I'll dedicate it to my friend Danny Paris. Anyway, the point is here that the death of the IDFA, it might be a great time to start thinking, oh, I can actually sell on the App Store and outside the App Store. The idea is not moving from one to another, but complementing it to be better. And it's a hard thing to do. Like being a cross-platform marketer is one of the hardest skills to get. And I think here, those will get it earlier this year, they will be in a great place. They will be at a great advantage compared to others. Okay, so I'm going to summarize it up. Be a great storyteller and more data, which is not news. Start thinking deeper into the funnel. Start looking broader at incrementality and are you actually really bringing value? Bit more cross-functional, going deeper into product and in particular into CRM, going cross-platform, trying to learn between apps and the web. And in any of those, keep your critical thinking. Stay informed, but mostly be skeptical about every piece of information you get. Question it, see how it works for yourself. And I have a little conclusion here, which is, and this is not new, that the only constant is change. And this is especially true in app marketing. I think the reason we're all working here is that we love it. We embrace this. So we shouldn't complain when there is a big change like the IDFA one. And the other one, we should take it as a chance. Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks, James, for letting me exceed by a few minutes. I'm probably not going to have live Q&A, but I'll be in the chat right now. I also have a subscription roundtable at 11:30, but I'll take the question right now in the chat. In the meantime, we'll prep for the next speaker. Thank you, everybody. I'll publish the slide later. And yeah, have a great day. I'll be around the whole day. I'm looking forward to all the rest of the content. Thanks, James, again.
Great. Thanks, Thomas. That was amazing. Start of a brilliant new conversation. And yeah, really appreciate you taking part today, as always. Thanks, Thomas.
Cool.